Hello friends, I'm Shweta, a practicing advocate from Bangalore. In this video, today we shall discuss about the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act of 1956. So in this act, before we go into the sections, let's understand the history behind this act. So this is way back in the year 1914 when the legislators felt the need to codify the Hindu law. They formed a committee and called it as Hindu Law Committee. And this committee was being opposed by many people because they felt that there could be no legislation to abide them to their religious beliefs. So later on in the year 1944, when there was a considerable progress seen, the committee was revived and it was now called as the Rao Committee, and Shri Nasing Rao Benegal headed this committee with a view to have a uniform code to Hindu law. So there were few important recommendations made in this bill. One is relating to the definition of the minor. Next, there is a classification of guardians made into three classes. One is the natural guardian, second is the testamentary guardian, third is the guardians appointed by the court. And there was a de facto guardian status is being abolished by this act. And so from August 25th, 1956, the president gave his assent, and this act is from then called as the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act of 1956. So this act has around 13 sections, which few of them are very important. So section 1, 2 and 3 speaks about the extent and to whom this act applies to. So section 1 speaks that this act extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and also applies to the Hindus domiciled in territories to which this act extends, who are outside the said territories. But from August 5th, 2019, after the Article 370 was been removed, the Hindus in the Jammu and Kashmir also are on par, equally considered as an Hindu as of that in the other part of the country. So this act now applies to whole of India. So section 2 speaks about this act to be supplemental to Act of 8 of 1890. This means that this Act of 1956 is a supplemental to that Act of Guardians and Wards Act of 1890. But this is not a derogation, or this act is nothing against the Act of Guardians and Wards Act of 1890. So this act now section 3 speaks about the application of the act to whom this applies. So any person by religion who is a Hindu, who is a follower, he is a Veerashaiva, Lingayata, or a follower of Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj or Prarthana Samaj, this act applies to those people too. Next, any person who is a Buddhist, Jain, Sikh by religion, this act applies to them too. Next, any other person who is domiciled in India but he is not a Muslim, Christian, Parsi or a Jew. So to the children to whom this act is applicable, wherein both parents are of the religion who follow Hindu, Buddhist, Jain or a Sikh by religion. Next, the children of whose one of whose parent is a Hindu, Buddhist, Jain or a Sikh by religion, or any person who is a convert or reconvert to Hindu, Buddhist, Jain or a Sikh religion. this act applies to those people. Next important section is the section 4, which discuss about the definitions. So section 4a defines a minor. A minor means a person who has not completed the age of 18 years. So any person who has not completed the age of 18 is called a minor. So section 4 clause B speaks about the guardian. A guardian means a person having the care of the person of a minor or his property, or of both his person and property, and includes a natural guardian, a guardian appointed by will of the minor's father or mother, a guardian appointed or declared by the court, and a person empowered to act as such under an enactment relating to any court of wards. Next, clause C of section 4 defines a natural guardian. Natural guardian means a guardian mentioned in section 6. So next important section is section 6. Section 6 speaks about the natural guardian of a Hindu minor. So if a Hindu minor is a boy or an unmarried girl, the natural guardian is the father, and after the father, the natural guardian shall be the mother. In subclause B of section 6 speaks about if a minor is an illegitimate boy or an illegitimate unmarried girl, then the mother shall have the shall be the natural guardian, and after mother it shall be with the father. So in case of unmarried girl or a boy, in the case of custody of a minor, if the child has not completed the age of 5 years, the natural guardian shall be with the mother. Next, if it is a married girl, the natural guardian shall be her husband. There shall be no entitlement to the natural guardian if he ceases to be an Hindu, and or if he has finally and completely renounced his worldly life and has taken up sannyasatva. So this section 6 speaks about the natural guardian. There are few important case laws. We shall deal with those case laws in the end. So section 7 speaks about the natural guardian of an adopted son. So when a minor child has been adopted, the natural guardian shall pass the natural guardianship to the adoptive father, and after the adoptive father it shall pass to the adoptive mother. Next section is about the section 8. This section speaks about the powers of the natural guardian. So the powers of a natural guardian of a Hindu minor is that they can do all acts which are necessary and reasonable and proper in the benefit of the minor's interest. It includes minor has a person and or has for the minor's property. But the guardian cannot bind the minor for the means of the personal agenda of the natural guardian if there is no benefit of the minor in that particular act. It shall not be binding the minor in that case. Next, section 8 subsection 2 speaks about a natural guardian cannot, without a previous court permission, shall mortgage or charge, transfer, buy, sale, gift or exchange any part of the immovable property. So without previous court permission, the natural guardian cannot deal with the immovable property even in part of the minor's property. He cannot even release any part of the minor's property for a term exceeding 5 years or more than 1 year beyond the date on which the minor is about to attain his majority. Next is that any disposal of the immovable property which is mentioned in subsection 1 and 2 of the section 8, it shall be voidable at the option of the minor. Subsection 4 speaks about that no court can give a permission to do actions as mentioned under subsection 2 without considering there is a necessity and there is an advantage to the minor through this transfer, sale, or the immovable property is being given away. So next, section 8 subsection 5 speaks about the procedure as to how the application to be made for obtaining the permission of the court. This procedure of application is mentioned in the section 29 of the Guardians and Wards Act of 1890, and in particular the application when the application has been placed, it shall be deemed that the proceedings is done under section 4A of the Guardians and Wards Act of 1890. Next, the court shall observe the procedure and the power specified in subsection 2, 3 and 4 of section 31 of the act of that Guardians and Wards Act of 1890. So there is an appeal provision also. The appeal lies from the court on which the order of refusing the permission has been given to the natural guardian. So next is about section 9. It speaks about the testamentary guardians and powers. So if a Hindu father is entitled to act as a natural guardian if the minor is a legitimate child, and may by will be appoint a guardian for minor as a person and for the property, or for both, apart from except the undivided interest in a joint family property. So we shall discuss about section 12 of the act later. So there can be made an appointment under subsection 1 of section 9, and it ceases if the father predeceases the mother. So if the father dies leaving the mother shall be the natural guardian. So after, if the mother also dies without appointing a guardian to the minor child or the minor's property, it shall the father or the guardian by which the father had appointed, the guardian shall be considered to be the guardian to be final, because mother has not appointed any guardian as such. Next, if an Hindu widow is a natural guardian, minor legitimate children, a Hindu minor is entitled to the minor. In fact, that father, so the father becomes this entitled to act as she may by will, so mother may by will or appoint guardian for the minor, for person or property or both. So next, if a Hindu mother is entitled to be a natural guardian for the illegitimate children, she may by will or appoint a guardian in respect of the minor person or for the minor's property or both. So guardian appointed by will. If a guardian is appointed by will for a minor, after the death of the minor of father or mother, there shall be restrictions, and the powers of the appointed guardian by will shall extend to that of the act or to the acts specified in the will. So guardian appointed by will of a minor girl. So if a guardian is being appointed through will for a minor girl, it shall cease on her marriage. Okay, so section 10 speaks about the incapacity of a minor to act as a guardian to the property. So section 10 basically means that the minor is an incompetent person to act as a guardian of the property of any minor. So no minor can be appointed as a guardian for any other minor's property. So section 11 speaks about the de facto guardian cannot deal with the minor's property. So after the commencement of this act, after the commencement of the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act of 1956, no person shall be entitled to deal with or dispose of the property of an Hindu minor, merely saying that being a de facto guardian. So next is section 12. Section 12 speaks about the minor having an undivided interest in the joint family property. In this case, no guardian to be appointed. So when a minor has an undivided interest in the joint family property, and the property, the joint family property is already under a management of an adult member of the family, in such case, no guardian shall be appointed for the minor's interest. But the High Court shall always have the jurisdiction to appoint a guardian in this matter. Next is section 13, which speaks about the welfare of the minor to be the paramount consideration. So when appointing or declaring a guardian to the minor's property or a person, the court shall look into the welfare of the child or the minor. So welfare of the minor should be the paramount consideration while declaring any person to be a guardian to such minor. So no person shall be declared or been entitled to be a guardian to the Hindu minor if the court is of the opinion that his or her guardianship will not be for the welfare of the child or the minor. So next we shall deal with few important landmark judgments. So one is a father has a natural guardian. So when a father is a natural guardian, so in this case Ezekiel Nadir versus Sridharan Babu, AR 1992, Kerala 200. So next is a landmark judgment regarding on a guardianship, where the court found that a gender equality to be given and the child's welfare is the paramount consideration to be taken into. So the court opined that it can be a father or a mother, whoever is capable and is available for taking care of the child and is deeply interested in the welfare of the child, and that need not necessarily be the father. So even a mother can be a guardian, a natural guardian for the minor child. The only thing that is, that person should be capable and should be available, and she should have the interest in the welfare of the child. So this case is in Geeta Hariharan and another versus Reserve Bank of India and another, AIR 1999 SC 1149. Another case wherein a mother has a natural guardian, in Jijabai versus Pathan Khan, AIR 1971 SC 315. Next is relating to an alienation of a property without the court permission. So when there is an alienation made by a person relating to the minor's property without a court permission, it shall be voidable at the option of the minor. Iruppakutti versus Charukutti, AIR 1972, Kerala 71. So next case is relating to an immovable property being disposed or transferred or being made by or a purchase is being made by a guardian, and when there is an establishment of the fact that there is a benefit of the minor in that purchase, so there is no need or no necessary for court permission. So in this case, that is Thansing versus Berlal, AIR 1974 MP 24. Next is when section 12 we spoke about a guardian cannot be appointed when there is an undivided interest in the joint family property of a minor. So when the minor is the sole surviving co-partner, there can be an appointment made to a guardian for such minor's property. So the case is Ratnabai versus Sitabai, AIR 1952, Bombay 160. Next is relating to the visitation rights of the parent. When the father is to be, there was a denial made by the mother to not to allow the child to meet the father. So the court held that the father should not be denied complete access to his minor child. So the father should be allowed to meet his minor child. So in this case is Mohan Kumar Rayana versus Komal Mohan Rayana, AIR 2008 SC 471. Next case is relating to the custody case of a minor child, and paramount of welfare should be the paramount consideration of a minor. So this case is Shamrao Maroli Korwal versus Deepak Kishan Rao, 2010 10 SCC 314. So this case, the court held that the rights of the parents or the relatives is not into consideration, but only the main consideration here shall be taken is regarding the welfare of the minor. So by this we come to the end of the video. I shall thank everyone for kindly patiently listening to this, and I hope this is a helpful video for you people. And I shall thank everyone and the team of Legal Trendsetters who gave me this opportunity to share my views on this topic. And any other questions relating the topic today what we discussed, if you people have any questions, kindly comment. I shall revert and get to know what your doubts are. So thank you.